Appreciate you coming in early this morning with us. B.J. Edwards along Mr. Anderson. Your last call, just mail it in, right? Just mail it in. What difference does it make? Doesn't
It's in
make
the
any difference
mail.
anyway.
It's in the mail. You'll get it.
Every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. till noon Eastern Standard Time, 2 hours of Christian Talk Radio with a sting. And have Americans just been mailing it in? Boy, it sure looks that way. And hoping for the best. Hey, we got a special guest this morning, Kevin Van Story. He'll be coming up shortly. He didn't mail it in. He didn't mail it in. No effort on the behalf of righteousness is ever wasted. Never. Folks, every Saturday morning, Christian Talk Radio with a sting. And if you just want to listen, call in. If you want to call in, 302-202-1110. And then hit your caller code 745353. www.lastcallradio.live. If you just want to listen on your phone, couple numbers, 605-475-0017 or 641-741-0816. College football. I notice you have your Michigan shirt on today. I said that word. I said the word Michigan. Isn't that something? Mr.
Well,
Anderson? But there's going to be no football season.
That's why I'm wearing it.
Yeah, this is just crazy, folks. Just crazy. This is not a pandemic unless you want to call fear a pandemic of fear. That's there. Just breaks my heart when I go out and I see all these sheeple wearing masks. You kidding me? And folks, we do need to stop mailing it in. And then complaining about the results. Yeah, we do. We're great complainers, aren't we? Complain about those that do something. Well, we're not doing anything. Well, I don't like the way they're doing it. Try it. See if that's the right way or wrong way. You're not going to have much of a choice here soon. You're going to be participating. And it's going to be a home game, and you're not going to enjoy that. They're already talking about masks in homes, for crying out loud. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Folks, it's time to roll up your sleeves and get into the game as versus just simply complaining. By the way, you're complaining about the results of your own complacency. Let me give you an example of how participating should look. Yesterday evening, I heard on the news that 9/11, they shine these two bright lights up in New York City. Two bright lights to represent the Twin Towers that went down. They're not going to do that this year. It's too dangerous. Evidently, this COVID boogeyman is in New York City, and it's going to strike when they see the lights. The lights will draw it like a fly, right? I'm not even going to go there, okay? Not even going to go there. Then this morning, I'm watching Fox News, and they have Frank Siller on. Now, Frank's brother was killed in the 9/11 event. And he's a founder of Tunnels to Towers. He's out of New York City. And guess what? Instead of sitting back, or is that bending over, and taking the news like the sheeple we are, Frank decided not to mail it in and take the bull by the horns. His group, Tunnels to Towers, is planning on shining the light on New York City for America on September 11th. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. There will be resistance. But just trying means a lot. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to other folks, especially those that lost family members, friends in 9/11. Frank's a doer. And we applaud him and we applaud other doers. Make sure that is encoding. Yep, it is. Last week, we had Jeff from Nevada that single-handedly stood on his Bible and stopped, Jeff is a street preacher, and stopped a drag queen story hour at his local library. We'll be talking about another doer from Missouri today, the Show Me State, right? Stay tuned for that as well, folks. And we have to give kudos to Pastor John MacArthur. Better late than never, John. You know, when we were standing outside of the vineyard, what was that, about 10 years ago, Mr. Anderson? Something like that. It seems like a century ago. We were trying to get the church to engage the culture. They are key. They are key. And they're remaining silent now with regards to the mask or anything else that's come up prior to that. They just remain silent. They don't do anything. Your best life now. What can God do for you? God's a big old Santa Claus. You just sit on his lap and he'll give you what you want. Not a father who you respect and you obey his commands. No, 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 no. This is what he can give to you. We were trying to get the pastors, to the church leaders, to engage the culture so the silliness like is happening now and the madness that is happening. Look at the Democratic Party ticket. Some of you say, look at the Republican Party ticket. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. It's what we do with what we have, folks. And it can get worse. And we've earned the right to probably have it get worse. Man. So we went out in front of the church and tried to get them to engage the culture. We talked to the church leaders. The pastor, the head pastor of this mega church, would never talk to us. Never talk to us. He sent his hirelings to try to find out what it would take for us to stop the outreach in front of his church. And we intended to be there until the church did something, which bothered the church. So the church did take action. They did take action. They took us to court. Instead of engaging the culture, they took us to court and secured a restraining order from a friendly judge. Freedom of speech should exist, folks. A restraining order. So we couldn't stand outside of that church as church members. There's just one church, right? As church members, we couldn't voice our opinions. We couldn't encourage the pastor to do the right thing. We were shut down, shut off by the church. That's not the kind of action we're looking for from the church. That's not. And good for John MacArthur for standing up to this insanity, this mask insanity, this pandemic, which is being used to gain and gobble up more power. Good for him. A little late. John would have, and probably did, if the truth be known, criticize us, our group. Minutemen United was a group we were with, still exists, criticizing Minutemen United for standing outside of the church. Embarrassing the church. The church is already embarrassing itself, folks. We were just bringing the light to it. Wow. This week, I contacted another megachurch and said to the receptionist, I'd like to speak to the pastor. Can't do it right now. They'll have to call you back. Okay, fine. Here's the subject. I think there's going to be a mandatory vaccination coming up, which is going to be untested, and we're going to basically be test rats for it. But regardless of that, I should have the choice whether I want that vaccination or not. I don't think I'm going to have that choice. Has your pastor spoken to this congregation, to his sheep, about the possibility of that occurrence? Well, I don't know. Well, I assume that if she's a secretary, she attends the church. So she knows. And they haven't. I'll have the assistant pastor call you back. That was on Monday. I'd like to report to you about that conversation between the assistant pastor and myself. I'd like to do that right now. The only problem is no conversation ever took place. Do we have to stand outside of that church and get them to engage the culture? Really?
I'm going to share a meaning And I hope you can see it. It bothered me a lot. I saw it on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
yesterday.
I can see it.
And can you see what bothered me about this?
Um, how COVID-19 changed church forever.
Yeah, this is a Christian community I don't know anything about yet, but they're putting out booklets explaining to pastors how to reopen their churches safely.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the picture there with all the, it's like,
They're conforming, like they always do. They're conforming to man.
this is what a pastor friend of ours was experiencing years ago when he was going to Homeland Security training for
Mm-hmm.
pastors.
Oh, yeah. True.
It
True.
reminds me of that.
The government realizes the leadership capabilities of the church.
Yep.
Oh, that they would do that, but they don't. Which is so sad.
Well,
So
they do
sad.
it for the government.
Yep. Instead, what they do is what the rest of us Americans do. We mail. By the way, what does mail it in mean? And we're talking about upcoming elections and our president's concerns about mail-in ballots. Well, that counts, but let's go to the Urban Dictionary and find out what the description of just mail it in means. There you'll see that just mail it means stop caring about a task or event. Stop caring about a task or event before the task is even complete. To not care anymore and just mail it in. The dictionary gives examples of, even though I still have one exam and 2 weeks in school, I'm just going to mail it in and get ready for summer. In America, that often translates into how we treat elections. And I'm not talking about physically mailing it in, which is worrisome itself. No, I'm talking about how we treat our public servants after we elect them. We're all encouraged to vote. It's our duty. You didn't vote. Only a certain percentage vote. And I agree, but what happens after that? Do we watch what happens after that? Do we put demands on our elected public officials? Have you ever called your public official? Have you ever run for office? Or do you just trust them to do the right thing? And then when they don't do the right thing, we elect them again. Only this time because they are supposed lesser of the evils. And every time it gets worse and worse and worse and worser. Here's the evil, folks. It is our complacency, our lack of attention, our laziness. You don't believe me? Well, the next time you're in a public square or a business concern, how many folks are wearing a ridiculous, freedom-sucking mask? Breaks my heart. Yeah, I like that. Mail-in voting is like writing your choice on a paper airplane and tossing it out the window. And Donald Trump, we cannot elect him like, what we did with George Bush and then turn loose the sharks, let him out there all alone, which we've done. It just doesn't work that way. Oh, we'll pray for him. Yeah, we'll pray. We'll elect him and then pray for him. Oh, yeah. How's that working? And as a result, we get the likes of Supreme Court justices that are less than desirable, like John Roberts. Folks, if we the people, and that is not spelled Trump, if we the people, P-E-O-P-L-E, not T-R-U-M-P, it's also spelled with a U and me. You want things to change, then you're going to have to step up and change them. And oh, by the way, you'd better start in the home, especially you men. Look at America today.
I'm going to have to put one of those that says break time.
Yep.
That was why
I get that. Hey, coming up, we don't have him in studio yet, but we're going to have Kevin Van Story from Missouri. And Mr. Van Story has a story that we want you to hear because Kevin is a doer. And we always like to present doers. Like Jeff last week, we always want the doers there. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This is your last call.
Last call with B.J. Edwards. Real talk about real life.
There he is.
And we are back. We've been talking about elections and we've been talking about responsibility. And we have a very special guest. I have to tell you a little story before I bring Kevin on. At one point, and this has been a decade or two ago, I had been attending school board meetings. And I attended school board meetings for 10 years. And I just said, I've had it. There's nothing I can do, nothing I can do. And I'm not going to go to any more school board meetings. Well, that evening, or the next morning actually, I got up and it was heavy on my heart that I was going to run for school board. And it was from God. And I'm going, no, there's no way. There is no way I'm going to run for school board. I can't win. I'm not going to do it. Next morning, same thing. Next morning, same thing. And I said, okay, I'm going to run for school board. And I did. And it was an incredible experience. I felt very uncomfortable. Most of us don't like to put ourselves out in public. It's kind of, you're afraid of the rejection. I didn't win, but I don't ever regret running because I've learned so much, and it keeps coming back to me what I've learned. It just keeps coming back to me, and it's something that helps you understand what goes on in the political arena. I didn't get elected because I wasn't supported by the union, the teachers' union, and because I ran as a Christian. Those two factors. Look, I was a businessman. I had been involved in a lot of community activities, even in the school. I was a known individual. But I threatened change to the school because I was going to make them responsible. Whenever you step up to the plate like that, you're going to get a lot of resistance. I don't know what rumors were going on around, swirling around me, but I imagine there were several interesting rumors going on. Lies. Again, I don't know, but I'm guessing that's what happened. Anyway, Kevin Van Story is with us. Can you bring him on, Mr. Anderson? Kevin is from Missouri, and Kevin is a businessman, a father, husband, and a Christian. And Kevin, the first question I've got to ask you is, what in God's name ever possessed you to run for office, and what office was that, sir?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I, with what you just said, what in God's name, God did. God, let me give you a little background first. I got Coach Dave Daubenmeyer to come down to Southwest Missouri on February 11th of 2018.
That rascal? He causes more trouble. He causes more trouble. I'm telling you. Go ahead.
Anyway, he had come down, and that weekend we had a big activity planned, and we had a huge ice storm. So there was just 6 of us guys at the church, and he ordained all 5 of us into his ministry. It was the best way I can describe a phenomenal fellowship and coming together of Christian men and worship to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. 2 weeks later, I'm awoken in the middle of the night, and I don't wake up in the middle of the night. Since I turned probably
That's
in
my
my mid-40s.
Go ahead.
And since my mid-40s, I sleep all night until early morning, and then nature calls. But anyway, so I'm awoken in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, by a thundering voice to do this. To do, the word was the big house. The big house.
Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C.
That's the only thing I could understand.
So you're going to run for president?
No, no, for Congress. House.
Okay,
House.
okay.
So in 2018, I was afraid. I didn't know what to do. So I did nothing. Nothing at all. And 2018, I had a very great year as far as real estate business. I'm a real estate broker. And November of 2018, election came around. I didn't even color in a box for the congressman for our district. Right after that, even though I was going through all the motions of what I had normally always done, 20 years in the real estate business, my business started to suffer. It seemed like my wheels were spinning and I wasn't getting any traction. And I had a radio show at that time. It was on a conservative news talk radio station down here called KZRG, and my radio show was everything real estate. But I had to fill an hour of content, which with commercials and stuff like that's 42 minutes. I didn't have enough listings myself to cover that much time. So I started bringing some politics and some religion into it. And it was the end of September or early October of 2019 when I made a statement. I had gotten perturbed or upset about something that our current congressman, his name is Billy Long, that he had done. And I said, it'd be nice if we could get somebody like, this person or that person who had been in politics, state politics, and termed out. We have term limits in Missouri. Anyway, see if we could get somebody to take on that role. And I said, if they wouldn't, I might. Well, that next week, between private messages and emails and text messages, I had over 50 people reach out to me and said that they would support me if I did. There was the first sign. And then with some serious, fervent prayer, on my face, prayer, I reached out to the Lord and said, I will be obedient. I will do as you're commanding. I need you to give me eyes to see, ears to hear, the words to say, and set my steps along the way. And as soon as that took place, I call that when I reconciled with him. As soon as that took place, it all turned around. My business turned around. He started setting things for me, giving me the direction, the guidance. And it's just the journey that I have been on since the 1st of November of last year has been, I have something I could write a book about. Now, I did not win the Republican primary. I did garner almost 11,000 votes. And because of COVID and Corona and fear and panic that has been pushed onto people, which is, besides the, in my opinion, the presidency of Barack Obama, the second biggest psychological operation in our lifetimes, I had basically about 30 to 40 days of hard running that I had done to get where I was at.
This wasn't just about you recovering your business. That isn't what this is about. That got your attention, but you already mentioned that you have enough to write a book, and that's the key, because you are now a light, a much larger light than you were before, and you're going to shine a lot brighter. I don't even think you would imagine what you've learned from all this, and you'll continue to learn that over time. But I just want to make that note to the audience. Just doing what God tells you to do. Man, we expect, okay, if I do this, then Lord, I expect this. Don't do that. because you can't read God's mind. You have no idea what He has in mind for you, other than just doing it. And like you, I didn't have a business to worry about. He just kept just pestering me, and then I went ahead and did it. And I'll share you another story, Kevin, is that during the election, the night of the election, at 8 o'clock at night. Now I finished dead last in the election. At 8 o'clock at night, and I didn't expect to win it. I'd had no expectations of winning. I just ran. I kept telling God I can't win anyway. So anyway, at 8 o'clock at night, with 25% of the vote in, I was leading. And I'm going, whoa, wait a minute now, hold on here. And I'm going, all right, if I get into the school board, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? Because I'm not even expecting to be there. And it was a game that Satan was playing with me. And the next morning, the final results were in. I stayed up most of the night. I couldn't catch any more results until about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and then they gave the final results, or close to the final results, and I'm going, what happened? But I went from, I can't win, doesn't make any difference, just going through the motions, to, oh my goodness, I'm going to win, to, what happened here? Crazy stuff. But anyway, it was an incredible experience for me, Kevin. This isn't about me, it's about you, but I wanted to share that with you. Thought you'd appreciate it.
Well, there was 5, the incumbent and 4 other people that were running. And with the 4 other people, we took about 37% of the vote total away from the incumbent. So that's an indication that a lot of people were really unhappy with him. I personally spoke with over 5,000 people. And the thing about this, BJ, is that during this time period, in the process of speaking to all these people, first and foremost, I carried the banner of the cross. I carried the name of Jesus Christ first and foremost, because that, number one, I am a Christian and I am a follower of Christ. I am not, you don't throw me into a denomination. You don't put me in a box. And then I'm a conservative, I'm a constitutionalist, conservative, Republican. Republican was 4 things down on the run. And I think since the primary took place August 4th, I've had over 100 people message me. I'm actually approaching 150 people saying they're going to write me in anyway. And I've had over a dozen people reach out to me and said that, man, he says, this one gentleman in Springfield, he says you're kind of like a sharp knife, but you're dull. And I said, okay, what does that mean? He said, you have a tremendous amount of skill and natural talent. You just need to be sharpened a little bit. And so I'm going to be attending some Toastmaster classes and trying to work on my grammar skills and presentation skills. I am not a polished politician. I have never intended to be. I've never had any political ambition in my life. So going for Congress was quite a major undertaking. And on top of that, one of the things that that had come about during this, back in November of last year, one of the county commissioners here in Newton County had walked up to me at the first political event I've ever been to in my life. He's previously had been a newscaster at the NBC affiliate station in Joplin for 25 years. His name is Jim Jackson. He walks over to me, and he's been our county commissioner here in the county I live in, Newton County in Southwest Missouri, for the last 8 years. He walks up to me, shaking my hand, a little small talk. Hey, Kevin, how's things going? Yada, yada. He says, why don't you run for my office and let me retire? He's handing me his commissioner's position. I know I could win something here in Newton County. I could win something pretty easily, because fortunately, I've spent 3.5 decades of taking care of people, doing people right, and I've got a 5-star rating on Google. So, and having a 5-star rating on social media and internet at this date and time, and doing any business at all is quite a feat. But I've never taken advantage of anybody in the real estate business. But there's some bad agents out there, and real estate agents have a reputation just maybe a tick better than lawyers. So anyway.
Kevin, we're going to have to take a quick break. This is B.J. Edwards along Mr. Anderson. We're speaking with Kevin Van Story. And we're getting his story. Hang in there with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for Last Call with your host, BJ Edwards.
And we are back. I have serious questions for the mass people. Didn't get all that, Mr. Anderson. I have serious questions for the mass people. Do you plan to wear the mask forever or just until you're told you can remove it? Interesting. We go after the mask here, Kevin. I don't want to put you on the spot and ask you about it. If you want to comment on it, you're welcome to.
Absolutely not. I'll jump right in on that because in the process of this, we had communities and towns across Southwest Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, Joplin, Missouri, Branson, Missouri, Nixon, Missouri, my hometown, Neosho, Missouri. I actually became an activist against the mask, and I had spoken at the Joplin City Council meeting twice. The first time they did not pass the mask ordinance. The second time they did. And 70% of the people did not want it, but 30% did, so they decided to go with the 30%. Springfield, it was already a given they were going to push the mask on to people because by the time I found out that Springfield was doing it, I found out also that the reason that these larger cities were doing it was because the hospitals were pushing it, and the hospitals, if they could get the cities to force a mask mandate, got money from the CARES Act. In Neosho, we have no mask mandate at all. In Nixa, we no mask mandate. Branson, Missouri, the first time I was down there, they delayed a vote on it, and then they turned around and put it in, and I wasn't able to attend the second meeting. And that over 80% of the people in Branson did not want the mask, but yet they put it in anyway. So I am anti-mask. In the process of this, when Joplin did force the mask issue, my wife works at a hospital in Joplin, and they started requiring even people that worked in the business center to wear a mask. And 9 days into wearing a mask, she contracted a bacterial lung infection, probably because of the mask. She did not have coronavirus, though.
Here's where the thing that I noticed up front is the information is very, very, it vacillates. From one day it's this, the next day it's that, and it's one-sided. It's all one. The information is only coming from one source, a source that estimates, doesn't know for sure. It estimates. It's all one-sided. It's all geared towards. It looks like if you want to shut the America down, the USA down, and it looks like this is the best way to do it. One of the things I'm pushing for is to get Simone Gold. I don't know if you know who she is or not. She was one of the doctors who went down to Washington, D.C. and stood outside the Supreme Court. Okay.
Yeah.
She's been on. I was on a phone conversation with her for an hour yesterday. She has really got her stuff together, and I would love to see a national debate between her and Fauci. Now, that's not going to happen because Fauci has, that's not going to happen because Fauci has control, but it doesn't make any difference. If there's enough public pressure to make that happen, good things will happen even if he refuses to show up. So I would love to see a national movement to get a debate going between somebody like Simone Gold and Anthony Fauci. So can you imagine how wonderful that would be if there was pressure to have, wait a minute, we want both sides? What do you mean both sides? We're comfortable with just giving one side. What's the matter with you? Anyway, I digress, Kevin. I digress. Where are we now? You just came out of the election. You've got folks that are encouraging you to do things. I'm seeing where you picked up, what would you say is the best thing with the outcome of this election for you?
Well, the whole experience pulled me outside of myself and showed me that the Lord has something bigger for me to do. And even though the primary is over, I have people from all over the district that are asking me to stay engaged. They want me to help them with these basically socialist infiltrated and Marxist infiltrated city councils that we've got across the area. They want me to go speak, stand up, because they're pushing me forward to be a leader. I'm not a leader. I'm a servant, and that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a servant for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and push His name first and foremost, and then if I can help overcome an unrighteous edict. Something that's pretty has had a really profound impact on me was the doctrine of the lesser magistrates. When I read the back of the book of the doctrine of the lesser magistrates, and I found out in the process of this election who, as far as county sheriffs, the county sheriff is the ultimate magistrate of a county. The county sheriff can tell us the president to go pound sand, and I've only come across one out of the 10 counties that I was running for Congress in. One county, and it's a county called Lawrence County. The county seat's Mount Vernon. It's halfway between Joplin and Springfield, right off of I-44. The sheriff there, his name is Doug LePage, and he is Brad LePage. He is a constitutional sheriff, and he endorsed my campaign early on. He said that there will not be any mask mandates in his county. He said that right up front. The sheriffs of these counties could come in and tell these city councils to go pound sand also, and take control of these city police departments and stuff. And it's been really disheartening. People that I thought were constitutionalists, they just stand back and let things happen, and that's really disappointing. So, but I'm gonna continue to be a warrior.
There's a lot of flack out there, a lot of firing, a lot of flack, a lot of people getting hit. Some people losing their jobs, some people losing their families. There's a lot. Some people losing their lives in all this mess that's going on, and it is up to us, Kevin, the church, to stand up for righteousness, and the male and the families. I could always slide into the natural family, but the men need to take the leadership back in their families, and then take the leadership back in the communities. And it's by design, and it's natural to do that. And what you're doing is exemplary in terms of what other folks ought to be doing. What I did is exemplary, and what other folks are doing, like Simone Gold. I mean, she lost her job. She lost her job because she spoke up against society, against the powers to be. But you have to do that. If you don't do it, for evil to flourish, good men need only do nothing. And that's what most of us have been doing. What we do is we'll elect congressmen, and then we'll just let them do whatever they want to do. And then 2 years later, or 4 years later for senators, or 6 years later for senators, we say, well, the guy's awful, but he's not as bad as. So we end up voting for the lesser of the evils. And it's going to take a lot of folks like yourself to stand up and start offering an opportunity to change. The public didn't see it this time. The public didn't see it this time. And public opinion is so important. And you've taken the first big step, I'll say giant step, in terms of starting to turn that around. And I would hope that you could encourage others that you've run into, say, hey, why don't you do this? I did this, why don't you do that? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, there were 3 individual state representatives that were people that were running for state representative races in the district that they took a liking to me and supported me in my campaign, and I supported them in their campaign. And all 3 of these people have been successful. They won their Republican primary, and in Southwest Missouri, if you get a Republican, a Democrat's not going to have an opportunity. So they are going to be taking their seats in the House, in the Missouri State House, and these people believe in Kevin Van's story, and that's they believe in me because I believe in Christ. They believe in me because they've seen my heart, and they with having them in the state situation, they maybe will help me in 2 years step on up. But now the thing that something that has come across, once again, I've had a dream, and I don't want this to sound cliche, but I've had a dream, and the Lord said that not to stop, not to give up, not to quit. So we've got not quite 80 days now before the general election, and there could be a movement. If our congressman stumbles, he has some unfortunate thing happen to him, there might be an opportunity for a write-in. And I believe that God's got something for me I don't know what it is. I'm just going to try to, I wake up every day and say, Lord, first of all, I pray that he'll armor me up with Ephesians 6 so that I'm fully covered with and protected with the armor of God, and then set my steps and give me the directions of what you want me to do today. How can I be of service for you today? Every day is a new day. And that, BJS this guy didn't exist 5 years ago. This guy didn't exist before I met Coach Dave Daubenmeier. So
In position and at the ready is a term we used in the service. And that's where you are now, sir. You're in position and at the ready where you weren't before. And would that more people do that. Look, it's a lot of work. You're going to expose yourself. I mean, that's going to happen. But what is your choice? Because if you don't do anything, you're going to get exposed anyway. And it's going to be a lot more horrible than just get up and do public speaking or handle rejection. It's going to be a lot worse than that because it's going to get personal to you and to your family.
It has, and I've made it very clear that I'm not afraid. I have no fear anymore. And that's something that I'm not the quiet, go along to get along type person that I used to be. I lived in the world. I lived in the flesh, and it wasn't my problem, but it became very evident very quickly that it was my problem because nobody was stepping up. Nobody was getting outside themselves. Nobody. I mean, it's just like many years ago, Coach Dave did a video, said that I'm looking for somebody. I'm looking for somebody, and that really stuck with me. It really stuck with me hard.
Quit pointing at me, David. Quit pointing at me. I can't stand that. Hey, we got just a couple minutes left. Anything you'd like to leave us with, Kevin? And thank you very much for taking the time this morning out of your busy schedule. By the way, my best to your wife, because women are very security oriented. And when men step out like this, and you didn't say this, I'm saying this, I'm making an assumptive here, but when we step out of the box like this, it's scary for those around you. And I would say especially for the wives, because they're very security oriented. Anything else you'd like to comment on this morning, brother?
Well, I have taught my wife how to proficiently handle herself with a handgun. Before I met her, she was already a yellow belt with jiu-jitsu training and stuff. So she's very capable of taking care of herself, and she's got my back, and she's, even though she's not with me many times that I go out and do things, she is with me in spirit, and she is 100. I mean, one of the things that it took me the second time in my life, and I'm actually her third husband, but we finally found the right people, and and her children are my children, and my children are her children. There are no stepchildren, and now we've got 6 beautiful grandchildren, and those are why I'm getting outside myself. Those are why I can imagine the world that could be left here, and I do not want that world to be. I would like to see a world that I used to grow up in for them to be in. And this world right now is so scary. It is so scary. So, BJ, I appreciate you having me on and giving me an opportunity to share it. I just would ask if you have just a little bit of motion or a little bit of gumption from some spirit or something in you saying to get up and do something, get up and do something. Be that somebody else. Don't be afraid. Just go.
For Christians, if you see a need, that's your calling. Please, if you see a need, that's your calling. You don't have to be woken up in the middle of the night, folks. It's obvious. God doesn't hide it from you. It's obvious. Kevin Van Story, God bless you. God bless your family. Godspeed. And the next time we talk to you, I'll probably be calling you governor.
Congressman would be okay.
All right, Congressman. God bless you. Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Kevin Van Story. I just love it when we can find folks that step out like this, because that's what we're about. This is not talk radio. This is do radio. I tell you every week about what I do, and I want you to be doing something. Draw a list up of the things that you would like to see done in your community, or in your state, or in your nation. Draw up a list of things you think to be done, and then ask yourself, where can I plug myself in? What can I do to make this happen? Can I do something to make this happen? And you don't. The stronger you feel about it, the more I would really encourage you to do so. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about elections. Whew. I'm telling you, things can't get much worse, can they? Or is this an opportunity? Why does that do that? There you go.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
It's a great point, Mr. Anderson, for a country who killed an entire generation in the womb, then tells adults to wear masks to save lives. Your words are a joke and an embarrassment. Speaking of which...
You're going to embarrass me?
Yeah.
No.
Evidently, Michelle Obama didn't make the cut. I've got so many friends that knew that Michelle Obama was going to be the vice presidential candidate. They just knew it. She didn't make the cut. Maybe because they did a DNA test on Michelle. Who knows? But sorry, fellas. You're wrong. Michelle did not ring the bell. Anyway, Mr. Anderson is an old white guy, and of course a supposed systematic racist. I guess this old white guy is going to have to vote for the Democrat Party this time around, because the Dems have just come up with the ideal ticket. First, for president, the Dems are offering a rich, old, white man who authorized the 1994 crime bill, and to balance the ticket, they've selected a corrupt law enforcement official who has made a career out of throwing minorities in jail for nonviolent drug crimes. Yep, the DNC has come up with an ideal ticket to subdue xenophobic, racist, rich white establishment. If you want to fight for oppressed minority groups, you must vote for the old, rich white man who authorized the 1994 crime bill, and this corrupt police officer who have made a career out of throwing minorities in jail for nonviolent drug crimes. That was from the DNC. It's the only way to fight the establishment. That was from the Babylon Bee, by the way.
Well, they are more accurate than satirical.
Yep. You know, as one of the things that the Democrats need to do, and they did rather well up until this point, is to make things generic. Almost like I can make the Democrat candidates anything I want to be, as long as they keep their mouth shut. As long as we don't hear anything about them, I'll just let the news media present that generic candidate, right? You know, there's a lot of confidence that Donald Trump will be reelected. After all, he is an incumbent, and it's really tough to beat an incumbent. And given a choice between Donald and political life or Joe Biden, the former is my choice. That being said, there's a problem, and a huge one. First of all, I'm going to justify my point with the help of a good friend, Michael Massey, and an article we recently penned, the subject of which was that he was punished by Twitter for daring to criticize an American liberal by the name of Oprah Winfrey. This is not about Oprah Winfrey. But she's going to help make a point here. It seems that Oprah, who was allowed to keep her white-hating thoughts to herself in order to achieve career success and has recently come out of her shell. Now that she's reached the top, she has plenty of money to burn and a new YouTube channel program called The Oprah Conversation. She's boldly stepping out and not surprisingly using this platform and her billions to shame craven whites who have changed their self-esteem and dignity to wallow in white guilt. This is from Michael Massey article. And I quote Ms. Winfrey, "It's a fundamental assumption that there are white people who are not as powerful as the system of white people, the caste system that has been put in place. And then the billionaire continued by saying that no matter where these white people are in the ladder of success, at least they still have their whiteness to hold on to." That's what the term white privilege is. It means that whiteness will give you an advantage no matter what. Michael Massey commented that it's apparently okay for vile, skin-colored harlots, he's speaking of Oprah, to accuse white people of being racist and enjoying a mythical privilege based upon whites having less melanin. But it's not permissible for you and I to call such persons out for their ugliness. Pastor Massey continues, "I guess it was white privilege that made Oprah a billionaire negress." Within moments of this comment, which he put online, Mr. Massey reports that the gods of Twitter locked his account, just as they did for Donald Trump Jr., for violating their rules against hateful conduct. In their opinion, his factual observation fell into the category of "you may not promote violence against or threaten or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, blah, blah, blah," as Brother Michael would say. Would Michael's account have been locked had he made up lies disparaging President Trump, like the fake news? You know the difference here, don't you, folks? Brother Massey said he guessed that Twitter was upset because I called Oprah a negress. Poor baby. I have very good friends in Honduras, Barbados, and Trinidad who refer to people who are black, including myself, as Negro. Negress is a Negro woman. In their native language, Negro means black. And for the record, Oprah is no more African than Breitling watch is a Timex, even though they are both watches. Pastor Massey continues, "I've said before and I'll say it again, John Kerry's wife, Teresa Hines Kerry, is more African than Winfrey. At least she was born in Mozambique." According to Michael, he goes on and he goes on and he goes on. Okay? The point being here is that the Twitter and Facebook, yeah, they were before Congress, right? That did a lot of good, didn't it? Control the narrative. They smother any information that would be conservative or would be effectively conservative. And they'll allow all kinds of nasty and vile comments regards their opposition. He who controls the information controls the world. If you have a vanilla presidential candidate and you don't know anything about the vice president other than what the drive-by media, Twitter, Facebook, what they say, other than that, then what choice can you make? Decisions are based on information. What do you do with that? How do you handle that? Again, if we don't, if Joe stays in his basement, if he stays in his basement, and all we hear is about, gosh, he did this, and gosh, he did that, and it's all good, and nothing negative. And with Joe, the less we hear, less from the DNC standpoint, the better off you're going to be. How could you possibly, I mean, honest to God, how in good conscience could you vote for either one of those candidates? Come on. Seriously. Joe Biden has been in politics since Christ was a corporal, okay? And what has he accomplished? What do we rave about with good old Uncle Joe? What do we rave about? Isn't a whole lot, is there? And all they can do is promote fear. A national law where everybody has to wear a mask. I don't think they should have done that, by the way. I think it's a little too early in the process. And I think that the mask is losing ground. Now, this is coming from a fella that goes to the public and to the stores and sees nothing but masks in his very liberal community. But I do think it's starting to lose ground. And it's gone to because after a while, those lies that we've been told, those inconsistent stories that we've been told, after a while, maybe after somebody you know that's committed suicide or they've gotten a divorce or they've lost their business, and more and more and more and more and those are going to happen because of a Fox pandemic that threatens it threatens less than 2%, less than 1% of the population. The insanity of this. And I think people are starting to see that. I have confidence in the American public.
What do you see in this picture?
Oops. I see a couple folks without masks.
Indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Not too far apart.
Right.
And then the other one, outdoors, nobody nearby, with a mask. Isn't that a little bit confusing, media? Don't you see that on the news almost every evening?
Fox News this morning had two people in studio. Which is, by the way, Fox is not our best friends, folks. Fox is not our best friend. They're not as bad. They're the lesser of the evils, but they're not our friends. They're too politically correct. They're too humanistic correct. This morning they had two people in studio. But they had to have a wide-range camera, wide-angle camera, to be able to see them. I think they were like 12 foot apart, maybe 15 foot apart. How brave. How brave. Do you know somebody that's a dental hygienist? How about all those protesters? What happened to them? How about all the sick people that attended Donald Trump's last speech?
Heartbreak.
Got it. Hey, after the break, we're going to talk about a law whose time has come. This is about solutions. Love to hear your comment.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Back. Mr. Anderson, you've been sort of quiet. Sort of quiet today. I want to get into a law whose time has come, but I got to share something with you about the mask thing. Get you loosened up a little bit. I don't know whether I can watch that Michigan shirt all day today or not, Mr. Anderson. That's I've got through an hour of this. Oh, I love it.
Well, if it wasn't for Michigan, it wouldn't be any fun.
It's true. That's true. You got to beat somebody. You got to beat somebody. The other day, my wife and I went to a local farmer's market to get some summer corn. Oh, man, is it ever good? And tomatoes. Magnifique. One of the joys of summer, folks. Anyway, while we were there, a fella come rumbling in his motorcycle. Blum, 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 blum. Parked it in the lot, opened up a compartment, and took out an industrial-sized mask. Put it on very carefully and hopped in line behind us. When he was done, I couldn't help notice he went back to his motorcycle. He took his mask off and then reached in his pocket. What do you think he pulled out, Mr. Anderson? A pack of cigarettes. Fired a cigarette up. Took his mask off, of course. Mask, cigarette, mask, cigarette. Anyway.
That goes together well, doesn't it?
Yeah. When he was done smoking, he secured his groceries to the chopper, fired up the bike, blum, 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 and off he went, back into heavy rush hour traffic. Minus, of course, any sort of a helmet, or safety gloves, or goggles, knee pads, elbow pads, chest protector. You get the idea. What's the saying? Until it's safe means never.
Yeah.
And it seems like every time I go to the grocery store, someone has to call 911. I'm telling you, it's just crazy. Sometimes they even have to call multiple times for those emergency medical vehicles. For example, the other day, I was walking down one of the cereal aisles, and one of the workers had placed a stack of cereal and cake mix on a pallet in the aisle. And the lady heading down the aisle passed me, and she turned around to see that I wasn't wearing a mask. And you know what happened next, don't you? Boom! She ran into the pallet. Tripped, in pain. And they called 911. Now, I stayed in the store, and I went down the next aisle, and this was the freezer aisle where they have those 7-foot freezers, those glass freezers and glass doors. And I'm looking for my favorite, I like to say vegetable, but it was ice cream. Come on, it was ice cream.
Spinach ice cream, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I hear this screeching sound, like when you have a balloon in your fingers, that kind of a sound. And I looked up, and I noticed another mask-wearing customer was trying to keep an assured clear distance from yours truly. Again, without the mask. And in order to do so, they had pressed themselves up against that glass door and were moving. And that was that sound of the balloon, that squeaking sound. And they were rubbing so hard with their forehead against the glass as they moved away from me. And they did that for so long that it caused third-degree burns. And here comes 9/11 again. Got to treat those burns. I think I might have even gone into shock. She might have gone into shock. I would wonder if I would have walked over and put some ice on her burns, but she probably would have had a heart attack if I'd done that. So I remained at distance. This is crazy, folks. And the other day, you're going to love this. The other day, I went in to pick up a prescription at the pharmacy. And the guy ahead of me, again, without a mask, the guy ahead of me evidently had forgotten his mask. And when he saw me, he quickly grabbed the front of his T-shirt, pulled it up over his nose, put his glasses over to hold it, and then went about his business. Mr. Anderson, what in God's name is the matter with people? First of all, I'm not accused. I'm accused of not caring about people because I just won't wear a silly mask. And indeed, they are silly and nasty. You know, at first we heard it's just a mask. It'll get better. Just do the right thing. What harm can there be in wearing a mask? It's just a piece of cloth, paper, right? Now, if I were to ask an atheist what is wrong with wearing a crucifix, after all, it's just a tiny piece of metal, or a leftist to put Donald Trump's presidential sign in the front yards, could they not righteously claim that it sends the wrong message? And one that they're not crazy about? And if you're wearing the symbol of a mask, let's say maybe to just get along, as you don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable, please be aware of the message that you're sending. By the way, you're wearing a mask to promote the fear-mongering, which will eventually lead to mandatory vaccines. Makes me feel uncomfortable. Just saying. Did we have a clip, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Vinny from Brooklyn, I don't know what you mean. There's now a 3-minute trigger warning if you watch Blazing Saddles on Netflix. Are you serious? Why? Why? So many pros. Okay. I get that. The BJB. Okay, got it. That is the BJB.
BJB?
Yeah. That's from the BJB. If you can't play it, I'll get started on the law thing. That was crazy. I want to talk about families. I want to talk about
Of course you do.
a law whose time has come. How much time do we have here? Okay.
Here comes the video.
Okay. Who was that masked man? Anybody remember that? And college football, man. College sports. College. And at Ohio State, they're going to give COVID tests every week. Every week. To students.
They're watching them every day.
Yep.
They got to report temperatures or something on a daily basis. Here's the sheriff.
Reporting 129 new cases in Marion County today. At the same time, the sheriff there issued a no mask policy for his deputies, a move grabbing national headlines today. The sheriff would not comment on his new policy today. News 6's Crystal Moyer went to learn more about the debate over masks in Marion County.
People who showed up say they noticed the difference before they even walked through the door. Upon entering Marion County Sheriff's Office, you'll notice this sign saying anyone entering the facility must remove their mask. For some,
It doesn't bother me.
others like Jessie Pinto and her husband showed up with a mask on.
Surprise. I think that's a personal opinion for each person, if they decide to wear a mask or not.
But
There's somebody that
Sheriff
thinks for
don't
themselves.
have a choice, according to a recent email Sheriff Billy Wood sent out. In the email, he mentioned the Ocala mask mandate exempts government entities and that when his deputies are on duty working as an employee representing his office, masks will not be worn. There are some exceptions, including deputies who are responding to a hospital or nursing home. All of this comes at the heels of a mask mandate in Ocala. Today, council members held a special meeting, a majority overriding the mayor's veto to the mask ordinance mandating businesses to require employees and patrons to wear face coverings when social distancing cannot be maintained. Public comment had residents on both sides of the argument.
Gentlemen, I beg you to override this veto. A mask mandate is not a matter of pride, but a matter of safety.
And I'm telling you now, if you pass the ordinance, I'm not wearing a mask.
Some residents even bringing up concerns over the sheriff's ban on masks for his deputies.
It's a little bit disturbing because that means I can get stopped for a ticket, and then all of a sudden, this officer could be carrying COVID that they might have caught from the previous person who got a ticket or whatever.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Then all of a sudden, boom, I'm exposed to it.
With council members overriding the veto, the mask ordinance goes into effect immediately. After a warning, businesses who do not comply may face a $25 fine. During the special meeting, Ocala City Council members say after speaking to some residents, they do expect to make some changes to that mask ordinance. In Marion County, Crystal Moyer, Getting Results, News 6.
I was just hysterical. That one woman saying, "Oh, if he stops somebody and then stops me, I'm going to get the disease." You're muted.
When it's safe means never,
That's
right? You can never be too careful, can you? You can never be too careful. Does that lady wear a frogman suit or an astronaut suit when she goes out? If she's really concerned about not getting that, does she wear that frogman suit when she goes out? Does she wear an astronaut suit when she goes out? No, she expects you to be wrapped in plastic, but not her. I'm keeping my freedoms, but you darn well better lose yours, just to be on the safe side.
you selfish person, you.
How many of us do you really think haven't been exposed to this? In Ohio, they talk about 800 cases new a day. 700 or 800 cases new a day. Or in other states, the same kind of numbers. Now, if it's in my city, I got to scratch my head and go, well, wait a minute. Everybody here is wearing a mask. Are you there yet? Are you there yet? Everybody here is wearing a mask, so evidently masks don't work. Well, they're not wearing them at home. That's the problem. They're not wearing them at home. Or when you go home and you've been out shopping, you need to strip in the streets, run into the house, shower, burn the clothes that you had on, throw the shoes out, and put on new clothes, right? Come on, are we going to be safe or not here? Isn't that what we're going to have to do? Boy, talk about boosting business. You can be a good haberdasher. Get into the clothing business here. A lot of money to be made. Yeah, on masks as well, right? Because you got those cloth masks that work so well. Or so we're told. Of the thousands or the hundreds that get diagnosed with the COVID daily, how many of those folks were wearing masks? Come on. Ask that question. Governor DeWine, you say the number of cases is rising. How many of them folks were wearing masks? Well, we don't have figures on that. But you're demanding that we wear a mask anyway, right? And you're demanding that we distance. How many of those folks distanced? If he's honest, he's going to say, we really don't know.
Far more wearing masks and
Has to be.
following the so-called rules,
Has to be.
and the numbers still rising.
Yep.
It's not working.
Something's not working. Yet, the proposed DNC candidate, Joe Biden, and his running mate are going to require all of us to wear masks. And there are diseases, you just heard it from Kevin today, that can be attributed. If you can attribute not wearing a mask to getting COVID, you can attribute wearing a mask to getting some kind of a lung disease. Same science, maybe. One good science, one bad, yeah, maybe. We really need to start thinking, folks. Hey, B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Your last call. We're going to take a quick break, and hopefully I'll get into that law.
There's a law.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
And thanks for that tip there, that video, Mr. Anderson. That helps. That helps. If you got anything else to show us, I'd appreciate it. Losing a little bit of my voice today. This is an FYI. In a recent article in Newsweek, and that's spelled W-E-A-K, News, W-E-A-K, writer Joe Grzak reports that Joshua Ponder, the coroner of DeSoto County in northwest Mississippi, recently broke down all causes of death in the county for July. This is a county in Mississippi. And according to the coroner, he did so because of the many Facebook Google experts and politically and money-driven individuals. Or is that the same things as politicians? Their driven agendas, motivated by money, were literally reporting information that is twisted and false to the public. According to the coroner Ponder, of the reported 144 deaths in July, the highest number of deaths were due to heart conditions, lung or vascular diseases, and strokes, with 67 reported deaths. Ponder wrote that cancer was the second highest at 30 deaths, and of the 11 causes of the 144 deaths, of the 11 causes, coronavirus was not among any of them as a cause of death. This is a coroner in Mississippi for the month of July. This is in spite of the fact that some of these residents did have positive COVID-19 tests at the time of their death. It doesn't say before or after, does it? It's before, but anyway. All of the individuals who have died that were positive for COVID at some point have all had major medical problems prior to contracting COVID. Ponder added that the majority of them were older than 75, and many of the people who died already had terminal diagnosis of some kind. They were already headed. Now that's interesting because, like most all other states, the Mississippi State Department of Health demands that anyone who has a positive coronavirus test at the time of their death is reported as a COVID death. He's going against state mandates, folks. You wonder why the numbers are so high? Wow. That anyone who has a positive coronavirus test at the time of their death is reported as a COVID death without acknowledging the fact that many of them were terminal prior to the positive test, the coroner said. It is this misrepresentation that has caused unnecessary fear in the public and significant stress, Ponder said, the coroner. He quickly noted that cardiovascular and pulmonary deaths, keep this in mind. This is something you need to think about. He added that cardiovascular and pulmonary deaths were drastically up in DeSoto County which Ponder attributed to stress caused by the pandemic and fear caused by listening to politicians and news reporters giving false information, speaking evil into existence, right? Stress causes high blood pressure, and high blood pressure with heart disease or vascular disease cause heart attacks and strokes, the coroner said. Citizens who see the false information politicians report to the world and see what the news reporter who has no knowledge of what he's reporting broadcasts to the world become way too afraid to leave their homes and go to the hospital for treatment of a more serious condition and ultimately have a cardiac arrest at home. Ponder wrote that his office was in the process of filing the 144 death reports with the state. DeSoto County's coronavirus death count will presumably become higher once the 24 COVID-attributed deaths from Ponder's office are added. We have the source crying out and saying the information that you're going to be given by the state through the news media, through greedy politicians, is going to cause an increase in deaths through high blood pressure, drug usage. What about the death of businesses? What about the death of marriages, of relationships that are strained, of family relationships? What about all that? We don't hear about that. Out of sight, out of mind, right? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it fall? Is that for a break, Mr. Anderson?
No, it
Okay.
goes along with the data you were given.
Alrighty. 3,219 dead from COVID so far. 5,471 overdose deaths in Ohio. 3,200 COVID, 5,400 death overdose. Are we focusing on the wrong epidemic, folks? Could this be just to get Donald Trump?
Hard to know, but
It's definitely increasing the amount of power the government is acquiring. It's definitely doing that. And our dependency on the government. Not on the church, not on the family, not on business institutions, and with the compliant news media. Do you really want the government to have more power? Really? Because that's the question you're being asked. And when you wear a mask out there, you're confirming that. When you wear a mask out there, you're saying, what is the old saying? He who sacrifices liberty for security will have neither.
pretty
Didn't
close.
Franklin or Jefferson or somebody like that say that?
Something like that.
You're acknowledging that you need more government in your life. When you wear that mask out there, give me more government. I trust you. I know you're telling me the truth. I have nothing to fear when you're in control.
Not only that, you're fearing the government.
The government is a stranger, by the way. Would you let a stranger come into your house and bring your children up? Whoa, wait a minute. I'm sorry. You are doing that, aren't you? Yes, you are. I know, but some of you are sending them out to public schools and letting them do that. You know, one of the nicest things that's happened during this whole pandemic is that there's been a lot of people that have had to turn to homeschooling. Oh my God. They have no idea what kind of a blessing they've been given. God works in strange and mysterious ways, doesn't he? You have no idea what you gained.
No, they lost a babysitter.
Yeah, true. They did.
I can't go to work. Got to take care of my kids.
The information you're getting is not good information, folks.
Why did they have kids? To give them to the government?
Exactly. That's why you have kids. It's not my responsibility to educate them. It's not my responsibility. I'll send them to church and let them teach. I'll send them to the churches in the parking lot that are afraid of government and not worshiping, not respecting their Father in heaven, not doing his commandments, but doing the commandments. And these are commandments, aren't they? The commandments of the government. We command that you... Joe Biden is going to command that you wear a mask. That's my command. The first commandment of Joe Biden, once he gets into office, thou shalt wear a mask. Really? You want that? Symbolism. If you're wearing that mask, you are saying that I'm going to submit myself to whatever the government says. It's okay to kill babies because the government says it's okay. Right? It's okay to have unnatural marriages because the government says it's okay. Right?
That's the kind of world we want.
Yep. It's the kind of world we're in. That's the kind of world we've let happen. Because, like I said earlier in the program, we're not watching our public servants. And they're taking advantage. They have their hand in the cookie jar. And you won't change public servants. You won't hire a Kevin Van Story. You won't hire him. But you'll hire the same old guy. The same old guy. Change is threatening. You have a mechanic. And he's not the world's best mechanic, but to change, you got to go through all this work. And change is threatening. So what do? You go back to the same mechanic, right?
Yeah, got to find a new phone number.
Yep. And the car still doesn't work right. And you complain about it when it's your fault. When it's your fault. There ought to be a law.
There ought to be a law. Yep. We need another one.
Yep. We really do. Actually, we need just 2 more laws. Wipe all the laws out on the book. Just get rid of all of them. Get rid of all of them. And pass 2 laws. And I'm going to tell you what those laws are. We're going to take a break here shortly, but I hope that you get it when we talk about these 2 laws.
2 laws.
And remember, with regards to COVID, you really don't know what you're talking about. We got all kinds of experts. We need that debate. America needs to have that debate. We're going to have a presidential debate. Why not have a debate between Fauci and Simone Gold? Talk to people about it. Talk to your congressman. Call the president. Whatever. Whoever you feel has the most. Talk to your pastor. At least try. You don't know. You don't know, but do so. Hey, when we come back, I'm going to talk about a law whose time has come. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Last call with B.J. Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Without knowing what the church is teaching them. Hey, Vinny, good morning. Bill Miller, Biker Bill. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate all of you. So, about that law there, BJ. Okay, about that law. Take a quick swig here. Imagine America with a law in place that uses the natural family as a functional template, as a vision. Any laws previous, ex post facto, nope, get rid of that. That means after the fact. Any laws, past or present, must assure the protection of the natural family and comply with its precise definition. One of the problems we have in this world today is that today it's right, tomorrow it's wrong, tomorrow it's wrong, today it's right. And we're not trending in the right direction. We're trending downward. We're trending unnatural. A definition that will not change. That is one biologically born man and one biologically born woman, human, in a lifelong relationship with their children, adopted, thank you, Kevin, or biological, and penalties for going outside of that natural institution, or lack of incentive for going out of that natural institution. In that nation, with that law, think about this, divorce would be unheard of. So you better make darn sure that you establish a solid relationship. You're not going to be able to try that car out, folks. I'm sorry. It can't be a used car. It ain't going to work. A nation where fathers, not the government, is expected to be the head of the family. What if the fathers were controlling this pandemic, the COVID? Parents want their children to be in school. Okay, I don't agree with government-run schools, but parents want their children to be in school. It should be their choice. It should be their decision to make. Okay, not the government's, theirs. What they should be taught in school should be the parents' choice. Not the teachers' union, but the parents' choice. Not government officials, but the parents' choice. And fathers, you'll be required to take a leadership role here. Children need to understand authority. They need to learn that. And they have to learn that in the homes. And if you're not the leader in the homes, how are they going to learn that? Are they going to become their own authority?
Just gave
Seattle.
me a segue to a video.
Fire away when you're ready.
When you're talking about educating,
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to share this.
Okay.
This is our friend Dennis Prager.
Cool.
About what I would talk about, but otherwise, it's completely spontaneous. And it's a chance to be as it was. And that is a number of teachers very angry that parents, as a result of school being on Zoom or whatever it might be, that what the teachers are telling their students will now be heard by parents. And especially angry if conservative parents get to hear what they say. Years ago, this is not new, years ago, I confronted this issue when people would call my radio show and tell me, when students would, and they would tell me that their teachers in high school or college objected to the point of wanting the school to ban the recording of the teacher giving that day's lesson. And what did I think of that? And I'll tell you exactly what I thought, because I taught college. And I remember when I taught college, people asked me, students asked, can I record your class? And I remember that's when people used cassette recorders. So they could record it just as they could record it today with their phones. And I remember saying, why not? I hope you do record my class. That way you can share it with other people who don't take my class. I taught at Brooklyn College, City University of New York, for a couple of years. It never dawned on me. Same with my speeches. People always ask, can I record your speech? I'm sure people who don't ask who do. I want people to record what I say publicly. Anything people say publicly should be recordable. Otherwise, I have suspicions about what you're saying. Why would you want to say it, especially a teacher, especially? I can say what I want to 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, but God forbid a 40-year-old should hear. That's what it is about. The reason teachers object, forget this latest thing, I'll get to that. But the reason college teachers object is because they know that it's easy to get away with saying anything to a 20-year-old. It's much harder to get away with what they said if somebody twice their age or 3 times their age hears what they say. They know that it's propaganda. A teacher who teaches honestly wants their class recorded. Get that? I'll say it again. A teacher who teaches, not indoctrinates, wants their class recorded. Why wouldn't they? Let others learn. Isn't that a beautiful thing? What could be more beautiful? I teach my class, whatever it is, American history, or for that matter, gender studies. Why wouldn't I want others? Because it's easy to get away with any drivel, nonsense, and indoctrination when you're teaching kids. But it's much harder when adults hear you or when people who differ with you hear you. Every teacher who is objecting to their class being recorded at college is a coward. They're a bully. I will tell you what I think and what I want you to believe, but I don't want anybody else to hear it, lest they take issue with me and I can't possibly answer their arguments. So I lived it. I wanted people.
You're muted. I don't know if I'm coming through, but
Sorry about that. I do that so there won't be an echo. We're talking about bringing back the family institution to the head of the table. Now, look, I get the church thing. For 20 years, I spent beating on the church's door. But if you don't have the family in place, what do you have? It's the foundation. The family is the root of civilization. The root of civilization. Government and all the other institutions, including the church, grow out of that root. And if that root is faulty, then it's going to just feed up through the other institutions. And that is what we have. I'm trying to tell you, this is what the root, this is what the seed should look like. And it needs to be one man, one woman, lifelong, committed, monogamous relationship. That is what society should expect if they expect to remain a society. Look at where we are today. Look at Seattle. Look at New York. Look at Chicago. Where are the parents? Where are the parents of these children? Some of them don't have parents. Makes the point too. If we're going to survive as a nation, God is my witness, we had better initiate a law that says the family is key, get out of the road, and let them assist them, but allow them to be the family, because that's what's gotten us into the trouble we're in today. Now, alongside that requirement, we've got a moral issue here. America is unjust. They have no respect for authority, and we are amoral. Look at us. Look at what we're talking about. Not just mass, but look what we're talking about in terms of morals. I'm okay, you're okay. Everything's okay. And before long, child abuse will be legalized. They'll lower the age first and then just say, well, what the heck? I mean, if a kid can make a choice about their sexuality, they can make a choice about having sex, right? I mean, if we allow them to change their sex, why would we have a problem with them having sex? After all, it's their choice, right? They know what's best. Don't doubt me. Don't doubt me. We need to establish a moral basis as well. We've got the instrument. We've got the instrument to deliver it, the family, in place. And then we need to recognize natural law. Because natural law is true. One man having sex with another man is not going to be healthy, and you're not going to have children. That's natural. It's just going to happen that way. Bad things are going to happen when you get outside of nature. You step off the edge of the cliff, you're going to go down. That's just natural. But there's natural spiritual laws, there's natural physical laws. And our government needs to establish that these are natural physical laws that can be proven and are unchangeable. That's the key, unchangeable. You can't have it wrong and then right and then right and then wrong, which we're doing now. It's because we got outside of natural law. The best place, and it's even recorded for us, it's in an instruction manual called the Bible. It's there. It's there for us to see. So you're going to have the establishment of those natural laws. The quickest and easiest way to be would to look at the Ten Commandments and start inserting them as our law. The Constitution is workable if the church does its job. It's made for a religious people. That's what our founders said. Well, guess what? We're no longer that. We don't know the difference between right and wrong. And then it's like a bizarro world. Wrong is right and right is wrong. People are getting fired for standing up for righteousness. Simone Gold got fired because she tried to tell the truth. Other folks have gotten fired for the same thing. Or killed. Or mauled. That has to stop if we're going to remain as a nation. So we need the Ten Commandments. With these two new laws, you've satisfied the spirit of the law with the natural family vision and the letter law with the Ten Commandments. Again, imagine that happening in New York, Seattle, Chicago. How would that change things? You know, the Bible says where there's no vision, the people, perish, right? I like the vision and hope you all do as well. And I hope somehow we can push for this. I'm putting this out. But this isn't something that's new. This has been tried before in terms of an executive order by one Ronald Reagan in 1987. When we come back, I'm going to talk about that executive order, which, it's a template for what I'm talking about, what we need to be doing. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. Hang in there with us. We'll be right back.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
John Kasich is just ridiculous. That's K-sick. I'll be speaking at he's a Republican, a supposedly Republican. We've all known better here. And he's from the same doggone, he probably lives maybe 10 or 15 miles away from me. I'll be speaking at the DNC convention because I believe that America needs to go in a different direction. Brother, I agree with that. I search my conscience. Yeah. It's kind of talk about that empty container, Bill.
Does it have one?
Yeah. Well, he's still looking for it. And I believe the best way forward is for change. To bring unity. Oh my goodness. That'll happen through the Democratic Party, right? To bring unity where there has been division. And to bring about a healing in America. John Kasich. Sheesh. Good luck. All right, where was I? Oh, yes. I'm talking about a president. John Kasich is so disappointed that he wasn't president of the United States. He offered himself to the Republican Party, and what did they do? They spurned him. They spurned him. September 2nd, 1987. Then President Ronald Reagan established an executive order to ensure the autonomy and rights of the family are considered. This is a fact. To assure the rights of the family are considered in the formulation and implementation of policies by executive departments and agencies, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, family policy making criteria. In formulating and implementing policies and regulations that have significant impact on family formation, family maintenance, and general well-being, executive departments and agencies shall, to the extent permitted by law, assess such measures in light of the following questions. Does the action by the government, this sends chills up my spine, I love this. Does the action by the government strengthen or erode the stability of the family? Hello. Does the action strengthen or erode the authority and rights of a parent? Gosh, let's see. Can't send your children to school. When you go to work, yeah. Do you see what's happening here? Do you see who's being attacked here? It is after the family. The Communist Manifesto, they knew the importance of the family. Homosexual Manifesto, Marxism, all dictators have to destroy the order and structure of the family. They have to do that. Because they become the authority then, right? What is Ronald Reagan saying? He knew the critical importance of the family. He knew it. You can't initiate something like this without knowing that. Does the action, this is an executive order, 12606, the family, September 2nd, 1987, President Ronald Reagan. Does the action help the family perform its functions, or does it substitute governmental activity for the function? Good grief. Education. Look at the aspects that the government is involved in a child's life and in your life. Pre-COVID, it was bad. With COVID, it's just like a fait accompli. You know, it's over with. With the COVID, we will totally take care of any kind of control you had over your family. You have to wear a mask in the home. In the home. And they'll probably have to put cameras in there. Right? Does this action by government increase or decrease family earnings? Hello, Don. Increase taxes? I can't imagine the inflation that's going to hit just from the initial $3 trillion package of printed money. You won't be able to buy a fart. Does the proposed benefits of the action justify the impact on the family budget? Here's a great one. Can this activity be carried out at a lower level of government or by the family itself? You understand the focus here? We're looking at the family. What message, intended or otherwise, does this program send to the public concerning the status of the family? Remember when I talk about the family's place at the table, or about the tail wagging the dog? The family is the key, folks. It's the foundation. It's the cornerstone. Like I mentioned earlier, it's the root. You need to do everything you can to make sure that root remains healthy, because if it's not healthy, the outgrowth of that root is going to become crooked and maybe thorny. Well, it might look like a rose, but it's got thorns. And again, we're talking about biblical marriage, natural marriage, which are one and the same, by the way. Look, I love the Bible, but do you really need the Bible when you've got nature? It makes it a lot easier, and the learning curve is a lot better. And you can reinforce the Bible with nature, which I don't think we do enough of. I really don't. I'm not a naturalist. I'm just noting nature from a spiritual standpoint as well as a physical standpoint. What message, intended or otherwise, does this program send to the public concerning the status of the family? The family is a numero uno. That's number one for you folks in Ohio. Lost that. Okay. Yeah, I lost a caller too. Somehow my conference thing went down. Roger, you can call back if you wish. My screen went down.
Oh. It blanks out.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to hit the space bar once in a while.
What message does it send to young people concerning the relationship between their behavior, their personal responsibility, and the norms of the society? We're talking about the family, about the vision of the family. Executive departments and agencies shall identify proposed regulatory and statutory provisions that may have significant potential negative impact on the family well-being and provide adequate rationale on why such proposal should be submitted. Look before you leap. The head of the department or agency shall certify in writing that, to the extent permitted by law, such measure has been assessed in the light of criteria in Section 1 of this order and how such measures will enhance family well-being. Such certification shall be transmitted to the Office of Management and Budget. Departments and agencies shall give careful consideration to the family-related concerns and their impact in the notices of the proposed rulemaking and messages transmitting legislative proposal to Congress. Here's an acknowledgement that the government needs to stay the heck out of the family.
Now, that was a law or a proposed law?
That was an executive order.
Oh.
By the way, I think there was a Supreme Court case that said previous executive orders had to be maintained.
Well, executive orders are not laws.
Mm-hmm.
And they apply to...
I'm saying there should be, Mr. Anderson. That's exactly what I'm saying. Go ahead.
So that's why that very good thing that you just read isn't observed, because it wasn't implemented for the people. It was implemented for employees of the government, which they probably don't even know that exists.
No, this was implemented for families, to protect families. Any laws, any executive actions that they took in his department must support the family. That's how I understood that.
That was Reagan, right?
Right. In formulating and implementing policies and regulations from the executive department that have significant impact on family formation, maintenance, and general well-being, executive departments and agencies, that's departments and agencies, shall, to the extent permitted by law, access such measures in light of the following question. In other words, if they pass some kind of a measure that's going to affect the public, in other words, you have to wear masks, okay? It has to have a positive impact on the family. That's how I read that. But it's just, there should be a law. Congress should pass a law, and the president should sign it. Now the question is, would this president sign that law? He would get some resistance from his family to do so, especially when it comes to that one man and one woman thing. It'd be interesting. I'd love to see what would happen if that law were put on the president's desk. You think?
Need a new Congress.
Well, yeah. That's a given. Yeah.
So the people we want to elect need to be asked these questions.
Would you support a law that, yes, absolutely. We're not going to get to our representative. They won't return the calls. They'll have telephone conferences where, hey, if you got a problem, come with us. We'll take care of it for you. Or we're implementing this, which is a financial benefit to you, or a health benefit to you. Because we're here, and we're making your life better. And that isn't what government is supposed to do. Government is supposed to stay out of the road and let us make our lives better, as versus depending on them to try to make our lives better in the manner that they see fit. That's the role of government. To me, just stay the heck out of the road. At least they should be.
Yeah, we'd be better off. We used to be better off when they did that. People
Term
keep
limits for-
asking. It's funny to me that even Democrats seem to demand that Trump do more. You know, he's being accused of not doing enough for this pandemic. And they blame him for not doing more. Yet if he did anything, they would call him names like dictator and tyrant.
The key here is you have something to talk to your congressman about and to establish where they are. You're going to get probably 3 answers. Yes, I definitely agree with you. No, I don't. Or that's interesting. Let me look into it. So you've got 2 no's and a yes. And being politicians, they're probably not going to say yes to you. So your job is to make sure that at least, at the very best, at the very least, that when you ask that question to them, that they're going to feel uncomfortable if they're a knower or I don't know her. And be consistent. Don't let up. Let them know that you're not going away. Like we did with the church here in Columbus, Ohio, we let them know that we aren't going away. We expect you to do the right thing, and we aren't going to go away until you do. And that's the way you have to be with your congressman. And if they're a Republican, they know you're going to reelect them, because we can't have Nancy Pelosi as the next Speaker of the House, right? So are we between a rock and a hard place? That's your decision to make. That's your decision to make. Hey, enjoyed our conversation this morning. This has been your last call with BJ Edwards and Mr. Anderson. Tell your friends about us. Tune in next week. Have a great weekend. Well, maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of